Brought to you by NORDIC podcast.
It's that's how you know it's going to be a good podcast. Are we on? Are we going? Okay.
We're on.
So yeah, what drew me to you was your multi-ethnic, as they say, savoir, knowledge, how to do, like not only in languages, not only in experience, and not only in the lives you've impacted throughout every type of ethnicity and nationality, but also how effortlessly you do it. Almost like you're on a break, you have 5 minutes, and you just do a little bit of this. We're here with Dominic Gorham,
Yep, that's correct.
and he is a serial entrepreneur, really, that has changed, you could say, the face of service from Paris to Norway, and I think best known really for leading hospitality in The Thief in Oslo, as well as really making a staple to showing the threshold of what a themed club could look like.
Yeah. Well, the themed bar is the bar à thème, which we would say in French, which is, I must admit, we were one of the instigators back in the day in Paris with La Casbah. But I can come to that later. When I think what I should start with is homage to my parents, because I was orphaned at birth, and so I don't know my birth parents. I've never met them, which laid a very interesting foundation, because when you don't know where you come from, basically, it's a strange thing, because I'm a great, in French there's a thing called a physionomiste, somebody who looks at something physically, and my job is orientated around that. You're always looking at people, you're always looking for signs, for indications, for just spreading joy, spreading happiness, smile, winks, frowns, regardless of, you have to read people very, very quickly, and I deal with hundreds of people on a daily basis. Anyway, so the physical aspect was very important because I had nobody who looked like me. I was adopted by two English people. My father's actually of Irish descent, hence the name Gorham, which is an Irish name.
Right.
And my mother was of Belgian origin,
Right.
hence the French, because she was from the French-speaking side of Belgium. So I was adopted into a white family, basically.
Right.
But I was also adopted quite nicely. We lived in Wimbledon, which is a beautiful suburb of London. And yeah, I was lucky enough in a sense to be, well, first of all, adopted, which was an absolute gift, and that I hold my hand out and have warm regards for anybody who's offered their love to a child that's not theirs, or that's not theirs by blood. I think it's an absolutely astounding thing to do, and I will always thank my parents for giving me the chance to have a very loving life. So I was raised in this milieu where I had no brothers and sisters that looked like me. I had no parents that looked like me. And I had to try and find an essence in life that represented where I believed I came from. Because my original birth father is Nigerian, and my birth mother's English.
And you found this out when?
At a young age. My
Okay.
parents have always been, I mean, when you look like I do and you look at my parents, you would always ask the question. Sooner or later, you'd be like, excuse me, but this is not
This is
quite right
something-
here. Maybe you need to explain. And they were, as soon as they knew I could understand, they explained to me. But I have to kind of go back to the beginning as well, because back in the day, I was born in the 60s, and adoption was easier, I would say, than it is now. And my father flipped the coin in such a way that, and when I speak about it, I realize how clever he was, because I was abandoned, basically. I was the one who wasn't wanted, basically, as far as I was concerned. And I was in an orphanage, and he walked into the orphanage, and he said he walked through this large room with numerous cots and cribs and children, and there was one boy up on the bars, shaking the bars with a big smile on his face, and he said, "I chose you." He says, "Because you had this energy, and I just saw in this child something that I wanted, and you became from the abandoned one to the chosen one. And I've told this story a couple of times, and it's just really, really strange the effect that can have, because I've always been told that I was chosen. So I've always regarded myself as something that's really special. Because when you look at the foundation, it's just tragic. It's just so sad that a child went through so many months of not having anybody, of just lying in a bed without the mother's love or the love of a family.
Right. Have you ever had that, or had that thought hold you back in any sense?
No, the opposite.
The opposite.
The absolute opposite. It's been an absolute inspiration for me, because I'm on a mission. I have a vocation in life, and I take that very seriously, but with great joy, because when you're as privileged as I am, to not put something back, or, well, first of all, appreciate it, and secondly, not to put something back is a massive mistake. I have an obligation to do this. If I can show, let's say, the world, for lack of a better term, that what I represent, and I know what people see, you know, I have definitely a darker skin tone, and I definitely have dreadlocks, and people see what they see.
Right.
If I can give a positive impression of what I represent, then my job has been done. I've served this. I've served my life well. And it could make the slightest difference. Yeah. I mean, that's all it matters for me.
And that's the cape of, you could almost call it ambassadorship, when one either is, I believe, from a biracial family, or even more from a family where, like, you would use the term maybe transracial. I
was transracially adopted.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
And you would have this weight on your shoulders, maybe to always represent.
Yes, because I'm privileged. As I say, you know, to go back to this sense of being privileged, I was adopted into a beautiful big house in Wimbledon, and my father was quite a successful business person. So I travelled the world, and I got to see a lot. I got to see a lot of restaurants. I must admit, that's where this passion comes from. That's what I do.
Right.
I saw a lot of hospitality.
What did your father do?
He was a management consultant.
Yeah.
It's a nice story, actually, because there'll be name dropping all through this podcast, I'm afraid, but I can't help it.
Go for it.
When my parents separated, which they did when I was 15, my father took my sisters and myself were the youngest, so we had a choice, if you like, but I chose to go with my father. And my father lived in Colquhoun Court. Now, Colquhoun Court is where Lady Diana Spencer lived, so she was actually my neighbour before she married Prince Charles, and I used to see her regularly. I mean,
that's insane.
It is.
That's actually quite insane.
She was actually on the same landing. My front door and her front door were opposite each other.
How old were you at that stage?
I was 16.
16. Oh, so your memories are, you have those clear.
Oh, I remember her clearly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Also, it was kind of a high security apartment, and there was only one way in, and very often I'd lost my key. I was not, and I was sitting outside the front door, and she'd often let me in. Such a nice lady. I have a great affinity for that lady. Beautiful lady. Really, really cool.
So that environment, being the only, well, I don't know if you were the only, but I'm sure you're in the minority of, you know, either biracial or that skin tone during, you said the six, was it a problem, or was it?
It was an issue sometimes when we went to the sort of, you know, when we traveled abroad. I was often taken for a rent boy. I have a sister who came. She's got the same background as me, but we're not actually related. We were adopted into the same family, and she's a very beautiful girl. And there are numerous times at the dinner, you know, the waiter would be joking that my father had scored nicely, and
wow.
and we were used to it though. It didn't really faze us too much, because it's funny, you become used to something because those were our parents, and it didn't matter what people said. Those are the ones who gave us the love from the beginning. So they could have been, no disrespect, but they could have been...
Of course.
They could have looked like anything almost, in a sense, because that's what represented love for us.
No, that's beautiful that even at the gate, you know, we get a valuable lesson of unity. Yeah. At the gate, you're blessed with the understanding of human race.
Totally.
it's such a lead or a head start already.
Yeah, for sure. So from that perspective, the sense of being privileged, which I know I am, so I find myself at ease walking through Peckham, chatting with gigs, sitting with a member of the royal family. It doesn't faze me, because I've been given that confidence, in a sense, by my parents that you're comfortable in any surroundings, and you should feel comfortable in any surroundings, and you can adapt quickly to your surroundings, being yourself. Also, my father always taught me manners. He said, manners maketh a man. He says you should always be polite, always friendly, always consider others, always take into consideration others' well-being.
Right.
And I think that's been a major part of my vocation, in a sense that I've found a profession that allows me to do that.
Right.
So actually anything that's celebratory concerning myself, I don't like whatsoever.
So no birthdays.
It's funny, the birthday thing. I got each other birthday story because my sister, who I mentioned before, who is also half Nigerian, half English, and adopted into the same family, she's now an expert on translation adoption.
Wow.
If the newspapers need any references, TV, they call my sister. She's an expert.
Wow.
And I went to her must have been about 20 years ago, and I'm like, sis, this birthday business, I don't like my birthday. Never liked it, really. She goes, well, duh, of course you don't like your birthday. She goes, it's the day you were abandoned. I mean, what's to like about... And she was harsh. She was like, it's normal you don't like your birthday. It's not a great day for you. And I've never liked...
It's not a great day for you.
And I've never liked my birthday.
Is she older or younger than you?
She's younger than me.
That's even funnier.
It is. But she's the expert. She will cut to the bone. She will tell you straight why you're feeling this particular... Because you always carry it with you. That sense of abandonment, you will always carry with you. Adopted. I love meeting adopted kids because you there's something the one thing you have in common is that you're all adopted. But there's many things you don't have in common because sometimes they haven't actually faced the issue. They haven't dealt with the issue.
I see.
I've seen a few in Norway especially who definitely come from another country. They've been given a very Norwegian name, and they've assimilated. They've joined the community rather than stand out as an individual. They've adopted bunad and brunost very quickly to blend in, basically, and that means that they've completely, I wouldn't say rejected, but where their origins are concerned, they're not really too interested. It's where they are now, and they're happy to blend in, if you like, even if it's obvious that they're not physically from this country.
Do you think that stems from a place of strength, or do you think that stems from a place of trying not to confront whatever?
I think it stems from the parents, number one, without a doubt. It comes from the parents. Because very often these children are, first of all, given a very Norwegian name, and the parents believe that is the first thing that will make them very Norwegian, and then the rest of it is just, we will be higher Nordic. And that's the way they go. They very rarely take these children into possibly the painful place of where they come from, on the plane and the pain of the reality of their beginnings. And the smart ones have done the opposite. They've taken them back to where they come from. They've tried to explain to them. But you do often meet these kids who and they don't like where they come from almost, and that's a strange one.
What do you think in the long term this will do? Adverse effects?
I always, if I ever meet them, I say, just do it now. Try and find out. Try and find out.
So when you found, I know that you said your parents were open, or your adopted parents were open, and when you could process it, they kind of told you.
Yeah.
But how much information did they have, and did you later on find out any more?
My parents had very little information apart from the fact that my father was of Nigerian origin. He was a lawyer, studied law at Manchester University, and my mother was also studying at Manchester. The story goes that when he knew that my mother was pregnant, there wasn't an option of taking her back to Nigeria because she was English and white, and she was Catholic, So abortion was out of the question.
Right.
So I was taken care of initially. Well, she was initially taken care of by an association called the Crusader Rescue, which is the Catholic St. Bernardos. Bernardos is a very famous, but this is the Catholic version. It's called the Crusader Rescue. And they took her, and as far as I know, they told her parents that she was on a pilgrimage, which would take some time. You know, back in the day, they would walk to Lourdes. You know,
Exactly.
they would, and this would take months. And they put her in a safe house, and she gave birth to me, and then put me straight in the orphanage and disappeared.
Wow.
That was the story. But there is a little bit of happy ending to this story. In that, ironically enough, it was a guy in Norway who heard my story. He's a lawyer, and he's Nigerian. And to cut a long story short, because it gets a bit whack now, he managed to find, because when my father registered in the bar, when you pass when you
the
become
bar
the
exam,
bar
right.
exam, you and he started his practice in Nigeria. This gentleman in Norway had an office or a practice in Nigeria. He asked his secretary to check out the name. They found him. They found
That's
my father.
insane.
But my father had passed.
Oh.
But I found my brother. I have family in Nigeria, and I found him.
That's wow.
And
how was the reunion? Like,
I have to tell you the story.
we have to, I
have
think.
to tell you the story. My other brother, I have a brother called Simon, and I have to big up my brothers in London, which is Simon, Michael, Bernard, Godfrey, Andrew. These are the boys I grew up with, and they're of West Indian or African origin, and that's my family in a way.
Right.
I have a very beautiful family, of course, but this is kind of my other family. It's the brothers. You know what I'm talking about.
Of course.
Right. So Simon runs a very fancy club in London. It's a beautiful place, beautiful restaurant, bar, club thing. And Simon's like my closest. So I said to him, listen, I'm going to meet my brother for the very first time. Can I do it here? You know, and in this, I love to share food.
Right.
I love sharing food with people. I think it's the most beautiful thing you can do. So if ever I have meetings, it's generally based around food.
Really?
Yeah, I always. Yeah, I have breakfast meetings, weekly.
Why? Why food specifically? Is it a give and take?
It's a generosity thing. I love to feel that I'm offering something to people. And I think when you're eating, the barriers break down very quickly.
Defenses go down.
Yeah, it's not, you're just eating, and then things become...
You're right.
I can talk about eating a lot, but
Right.
we won't go. I can tell you about that later, maybe, if we have time. But the story goes that, as I say, beautiful restaurant, fancy club, kind of bar, hip, kind of London, Regent Street, that level, proper nice. And I got there early, and I said to someone, okay, where are we sitting? Where are we gonna meet? Yeah, Dom, I'll put you in this table here, man. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah. And it was in the middle of this restaurant, buzzing. This
Whoa.
place is going off, and it's all, all high. Everyone's high. And I said, Simon, man, I'm meeting my brother for the first time. Maybe this isn't, I need to speak to him. Nah, man, it'll be fine. Nah, you'll be all right, Simon. Please, honestly, I don't think this is going to work, man. And I was really, nervous. I'm not the nervous type of person, but I really wanted to make sure that this moment was. And I see he has these alcoves. There's these beautiful, it's a Moroccan style restaurant. There's these beautiful alcoves with curtains. And I said, so can I sit in there, in the alcove, with this curtains and beautiful tables? And nah, I got no staff, man. We're not. I said, don't worry about staff, man. You throw a bowl in there. I don't care. I just want to sit somewhere comfortable with him. So he said, all right. So I sit in this alcove. It's all curtained, and I can see the front door through the restaurant. And as my brother walks in, Simon's there. He says, oh, yeah, you're here to meet Dominic. Yeah, follow me. So he guides him through this restaurant, popping. This place is absolutely on fire. And it's really hip. And he draws him to these curtains, and he opens the curtains, and I see him coming, so I stand up, and we walk into this beautiful sort of Moroccan alcove with, and it's only us. It's a private area. And we embrace, and, we're hugging, and it's the first time. And we sit down, and he looks at me, he goes, excuse me, who are you? I said, I'm your brother. He says, yeah, but who are you? Because I've just been greeted at the door by the owner. I'm walking through the trendiest restaurant in London, and I come to a private area that's curtained with you sitting inside. Who the hell are you? And for a Nigerian, this is, oh man, this must be somebody,
up
I said,
there.
no, man, this is what we do. This is our profession. This is how we roll. Not that. It's just we allow ourselves these moments because we've been working very hard to establish ourselves as some of the best in the industry. But this has just happened to be free, and I just wanted the quiet area to. And we sat down and we sat for like 3-4 hours and had food and shared thoughts. And he brought a picture of my father. Now back to the physiognomy, the physical thing.
Finally, something tangible.
Finally, exactly. And he sat there and he looked at me and through about 3 or 4 times during our dinner, he says, you'd have to excuse me because I buried my father or our father 5 years ago. I'm looking at the reincarnation of our father because you look more like our father than anybody in the family.
Oh.
And I look at the picture, it's ridiculous.
Uncanny.
It looks just like me. It's just like me. So it's
How did that
time
feel when you saw the picture for the first time?
Yeah, just a sense of completion.
Right.
Because I'm firstborn, and if you know about Nigerian families or African families in general, firstborn son, he's a man.
Yeah.
And I know he told me that there, of course, you have to tread carefully because, I've done well. I'm not looking for anything. But he says you have land and you own stuff, of course, in Nigeria because you're firstborn. But then I have a whole family there who believe they knew of my existence apparently. But now, if the prodigal son returned home,
wow,
I don't know what would happen.
No.
But anyway, I'm not. I will. I'm destined to go there.
You've never been though.
Never been, but I've been to Africa a few times, different parts of Africa, West Africa, North Africa, East Africa, but never to Nigeria.
No.
But now, I've met a young lady a few days ago actually who will facilitate this for me.
Going to Nigeria.
Going to Nigeria, yeah. She's here now.
Fantastic.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it.
Do we have a timeline, or is this still not yet?
No, there's no timeline. But I think as soon as things open up,
of course,
it will be quite.
Of course,
it'll be quite soon.
What do you hope to, I guess, reconcile, or what bridges do you hope to cross by going there?
In all honesty, none. None.
No expectations.
None. And I'll explain why. When there are 9 children in my family. My mother gave birth to 5 and adopted 4. 2 of us are half Nigerian, half English, and the other one, my sister Kaz, of Canadian origin, and my sister Mary of Lithuanian. So it's a madhouse.
Right.
But very, very interesting. I was lucky. My 3 sisters all found their birth parents whilst they were alive. And it's been interesting to say the least.
Wow.
Concerning what they've experienced. So I was lucky enough in a sense to see what they went through, and I'm able to really tread carefully or distance myself in a way that I tread in when I want. I don't need to go rushing in. It's not needy in a sense for me. I'd be very happy to find, that. And also I have been around Nigerians all my life. I've been around Africans all my life. I've been around West Indians all my life. So it's not as if I don't know about my culture. When I mention my name, which is Okoye, my family name is Okoye. The Nigerians, Okoye. They when you mention that name, Okoye, they know the name.
It's a pass.
It's a name. Yeah. It holds some weight. So no, I would anything extra would be a bonus.
That is honestly the best way to go in.
Totally. If I go in needy, I will get disappointed. I'm not needy, and I'm not a needy person.
No.
I really have been, my life has been very full. I'm very busy. I have the love of brothers and sisters. I have a love of my girlfriend and my children.
The nature of even being needy is a nature of taking.
Yeah.
You are centered in such a craft of giving of service. Yeah,
I know.
It's contraindicated.
It's so true. It's so true.
You wouldn't be a needy person by nature.
No, exactly.
Not when you're this good.
That's very true.
At giving.
Yeah, that's very true. I remember I spent this whole birthday thing. The anecdote was that On my 50th, of course, people were looking for me. That 50 years old man, yeah, you got to do something, yeah, you party. And
Nothing.
no, I hid on a golf course with my father-in-law.
Wow.
I went to a golf course and they couldn't find me. No. Forget it. It's like
Honestly,
you submerge yourself and you come up on the other side. It's over, man. It's hey, done.
Done. But the most important thing with birthdays people need to remember is the person needs to enjoy that day. And if that is how they enjoy it, so be it, man.
Totally.
So be it.
Yeah, so true.
Going MIA on a golf course, so be it.
Perfect for me. Had a lovely time. Peaceful.
So from 16, almost neighbors with Diana.
Yep.
How did you end up in Paris?
My father sent me. I have a French grandmother. She lived in Place d'Italie, which is in the 13e, the Chinese quarter.
Right. Wow.
And I was up to no good. I was in a band. I was on the puff. You know.
What type of band was this?
It was a pop band.
Pop band.
A pop band.
I would have guessed reggae, but fine.
No, it was a pop band. And we were at the same time as like Duran Duran, Spandau Ballet, Kajagoogoo, all these pop bands, real big pop bands, and they were all signing album deals for like 8 albums, 7 albums, 6. It was back in the day when record companies, they sold, you sold yourself. Yeah, you were in. And we were working with some really big people, really big studios, doing demos. We were one of those bands that on the cusp of making it.
Right.
Long story short, it didn't click. It did just something. Well, it just didn't work.
So what was your role in this band?
I was vocalist and percussionist.
No way.
And I played a bit of trumpet too, yeah.
Yo, you're talented.
Yeah, I still play.
Where did you pick these talents up?
I've been playing all my life.
Yeah?
Singing all my life, yeah. All my life. I'm actually a closet drummer at the moment. I have a drum studio in my basement. I drum like crazy.
Up to today?
Up to this very moment. I played last night for like 3 hours.
Yeah. Like people should stop going, I don't have time. Like you're making time.
Well, at the moment, this is an absolute luxury for me because I'm I'll come to work in a minute, but things have calmed down slightly, but we can talk about that in a minute. Of course. But I've found that little window and I have found a drum teacher. Big up Marcus. He's my drum teacher. And because I've always kind of wanted to play and I can play, but I needed someone to work out my technique.
Right. Proper guidance.
Yeah, he's on it. He's my teacher. But
okay, so pop band.
Yeah, pop band, relatively successful, and then it went pear-shaped. And my father's, he'd bought me a really nice apartment in London. I was up to no good. Not in a very bad way, but just in a kind of carefree way that he wasn't. He was a very sort of together businessman, and
I see. He
wanted some structure in my life, and he said, "Listen, just get out. Just go and live with your grandmother in Paris and work life out if you can." And
did a specific thing happen to cause that conversation, or was it a gradual change that naturally brought it?
It was me in a way. I think I was asking for it, and I think he could see. My father was a wise man. I'm telling you. Everything you told me was going to happen did happen. This is a message to any you young ones out there. Try to listen to your father, because whatever you say, whatever he says is going to happen. I promise you. Anyway, I was looking for the way out. I think it was, and I remember I left the apartment. And I remember to this day it was I remember the door. I remember opening the door, being inside the apartment, opening the door and closing the door behind me, and I had this moment of. Suddenly the world became mine, because what was behind me I couldn't go back to. I could only go forward. And I remember that door. I remember everything about that moment, and I will never ever forget that moment. It was an absolute revelation for me. And I realized that, now things are going to change. Now things are going to happen. And surely they did, because my mind was open to it. My body, my soul, my whole being was open to whatever was coming. And I moved to her apartment in Paris, and I'd just come from London in a band. I was busy, and I moved into Mamie. Mamie is, my grandmother, and she was a proper Mamie. She was home with pantoufles, slippers, and everything. She loved me. I'd known her she's known me since I was a baby. Right. So, and she loved me.
Could you speak a word of French?
Yes, I could.
Okay.
Yeah, my mother always spoke French.
Perfect.
So I
was, the Belgian side.
Yeah,
of course.
I was kind of bilingual.
So already by then, perfect.
But I couldn't. It wasn't fluent, but I had it.
Okay.
I had subconscious French, and I could get by. But it came very, very quickly. Anyway, Mamie was like, she wanted me to stay home and be safe, and Paris was dangerous, and for me it was the complete opposite. And I remember standing on the Champs-Élysées, and I told this story the other day to a friend, and just being, it's another moment when I was the loneliest person on earth. I believed I was standing in the middle of the Champs-Élysées. Everybody was going somewhere with somebody or with something to do. I was the complete opposite, the polar opposite. I had nowhere to go and nothing to do. And that was another moment of, we spoke about this earlier, about this, what we call the natural high.
What is the natural high?
The natural high is when you're totally lucid, when you're totally free of any form of outside, well, not outside, but any form of stimulant, anything else that's in your system that's not keeping you as pure as possible. Then you can experience a natural high, because then it can hit you. And that was probably a natural low, but a brilliant one, because it motivated me to do something quite, let's say, radical, but I knew I had to do something about it. So I went out the following day, and she'd actually take me to a restaurant called La Coupole. La Coupole is a French institution in Montparnasse. It's this old brasserie, proper. It's probably one of the most famous in Paris, if not the most famous. And she knew the directeur, and this was so French, and it was so kind of, typically French. And she introduced me, and I was, mamie, I saw this place. And no, I just didn't get the vibe. So she was like, but this is La Coupole, they offer you a job here, Jesus, you should.
You've made it.
Yeah, you should, but it was one of those places you just thought, no, I'm not going to do this.
No.
You'll be a waiter for life, like as a career waiter.
I see your point.
You'll be there at 50 with a tray and collecting tips from tables. I mean, that's what they do, but they make a lot of money.
Right. But
it's just it wasn't for me. Anyway, I decided I'd go out, and I remember walking into a shop. And there was this guy, and I asked him about cocktail bars, because I'd actually worked in cocktail bars in London, but that's another story. And he mentioned 3 names. It was Harry's Bar, one other place, and a place called Le Paradis de Fruits. And I went to Harry's. They weren't very nice. Didn't like it. And Harry's is famous. It's very famous. It has Harry's bars all over Europe.
Right.
Yeah, they're very famous. And then I went to this other place, and they were just as unfriendly.
Definitely not memorable. Don't even remember the name.
No, I can't remember the name of
Right.
it. I remember where it was, though. It was on the Champs-Élysées, just off the Champs-Élysées. And the other place, I was in Opéra, and I remember it was the evening, and I saw this green sign, and it said Le Paradis de Fruits. And I looked at my list, and I'm like, that is the name that's on my list. It's the 3rd place, and I go and have a look. And I walked in, and it's a fruit bar.
Right.
It's the paradise of fruit is the translation, of course. And it was a fruit bar with ice creams, salads, a real good place, a real healthy place. And it was run by 3 brothers called Serge, Victor, and Claude Louzon. And I walked in with my, the language of the French I could speak, and then said, I'm looking for work. And you could see it was Serge who met me. He sat there and he looked at me, and you could see his mind was ticking. He had this kind of tropical bar with a bamboo kind of bar, which was central, and he needed a guy behind the bar.
Right.
He put 1 and 1 together and came up with me. He was like,
Perfect.
This guy is absolutely perfect. What's more, he's English speaking, which is really hip.
Yeah, especially in France.
Oh, man, they even changed my name. They called me Gallaghan.
No way.
They called me Gallaghan because I think it came from Dirty Harry.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I got so pissed with Gallaghan. And I was like, my name's not Gallaghan.
Oh, that is brilliant.
It's a true story. And then you could see this guy was like, he's like, this guy is absolutely perfect.
That's the taste of the theatrical.
Oh, man, brilliant. And he put me behind his bar, and I was making fruit. I had this beautiful big fridge, every fruit under the sun. I can make fruit cocktails like nobody, and big thing of crushed ice, and you could put yogurt with it and milk with it, and then they had all the ice creams going on.
Now, was this self-taught there and then? Or where did you get...
Well, when if you can make cocktails, you understand that there's basic ingredients to make something taste good. If it's a fruit, and you add a little bit of sugar. You need some ice to, get the whole sort of volume up. Definitely a touch of lemon juice or orange juice. That's an absolute trick if you're making anything.
And what's funny is you don't drink.
I don't drink, no. But I can make...
I mean, I understand that. I don't drink either.
No.
But I don't do cocktails.
No.
I don't make it. So that's the juxtaposition that is fascinating.
When I was making cocktails, it wasn't... I wouldn't say I didn't drink, but I was always working. And I always had this philosophy of staying completely clean during work. Work time was work time.
Work.
There's no job on this planet you can go to with alcohol in your system, or there shouldn't be. I can't think of one.
No.
Of course, when you work in the industry, you're tasting wines. Okay, that I understand.
Yeah, even that to spit out though.
Yeah, whatever.
But yeah.
Whatever. I'm in the industry, and I know a lot of people who do actually have a glass of wine.
Right.
That's fine in a way, but when you take this profession as seriously as I do and do the job that I do, you're sober.
Of course.
You're free of anything. Course. And so my workday was so long, there was actually no time to consume anything because I'd work it up, work from 12 in the morning till 3 at night.
Fantastic.
On a daily basis.
Wow.
So where is the time to drink? And also, if you're dealing with a situation, you can always walk into a situation sober when the situation is alcohol related and say, listen, I'm sober, you're drunk, let me take care of this. And people 99 times out of 100, they're like, yeah, we see you, we got it, we understand.
Yeah. It's a heavy anchor and it's a very good position to be in.
It's the only position to be in. Any manager you see who's in the back doing whatever stupidness with whatever is not a good manager as far as I'm concerned. You lead by example.
Perfect.
And you have to do it. Anyway, that's a whole different subject. But the thing for me was that this bar was my foundation. It still exists in Paris. There are many Le Paradis de Frise now, or they're all over Paris.
Really? So the franchise, the grew.
It's big. I was in the original. I did the Saint-Michel and Opéra. Those were the two original ones, and I did them both. And I thank those guys from the bottom of my heart, because you realize in life you need people to have faith, who can see you and they can very quickly discern that this is the right thing to do and this is the right person for the job. And those are really good people. And I've met quite a few in my life, and they've all been extremely positive, even to the last one, which was Peter Stordalen, who has entrusted me with his flagship hotel. And I will be forever grateful to him, because he's been a client of mine for many, many years, and he's seen the work I've done. He's been to all my bars and my clubs and my restaurants. But when this came along, he was working with a girl called Silly Learning, who I have the deepest love for. She's brilliant at what she does, absolutely brilliant in this industry. She's the hotel queen, basically, as far as I'm concerned.
Wow.
And she's on a new project that we can talk about later. We should talk about the new project. We'll talk about that in a minute. Anyway, she said to Petter, you have to speak to Dominic. And they put us together, and the rest is history. 10 years later, we've created one of the finest hotels Scandinavias ever seen, and we're world renowned.
100%. Yeah. 100%.
So big up Petter and big up Siri. Thank you so much. And I could wax lyrical about both of them, but Petter, because he's head of such a large organization, and he's generosity personified. The man he owns his company, and his company owns him.
And he's very genuine in his energy.
Oh man, incredible! I could tell you some stories about that guy.
Yeah,
he's a showman, but of the truest sense, because he's willing to get up on stage and he's willing to show the real Petter Stordalen. He's willing to. He'll laugh, he'll cry with you, he'll hug you, he'll kiss you, but he will mean it. I have to tell one story that just absolutely personifies what this guy is about, is that he throws a gig every year called VOTCast. It's called Winter Conference, and it's just, everybody knows about VOTCast in the industry. And he rents a massive arena in Stockholm and flies all his management and all his team in for a mega celebration. It's a yearly gig. I've been there 7 times, I think, now.
Oh.
And you're put up in a hotel, and it's a gala dinner, there's workshops, there's sponsors there, there's a sponsors village. You go around and see all the people that are working with all the different companies. There's show. There's it's just there's big party as
Right.
well. I mean, real, but he's extremely generous. A real celebration of his company. And he opens generally the gig, and he prepares this all year. This is a massive gig, and he's been around all his hotels with his crew, and just chosen random people and said, if you could make one wish, what would it be? And he accumulates all this, and then, of course, at the show in Stockholm, he's up on stage and he talks about the company, he talks about the year we've had, he talks about things that really matter to him. And he says in front of 3,500 people, I went round this year and I spoke to various people about the one wish that they had in life. What would it be? And he says, I'll invent her name. Will Monica please stand up? Monica Hernandez, will you please stand up? And this is big screen, big production, spotlight on her, camera goes to her. She's up on the big screen and she's standing there, humble and just she doesn't know this is going to happen. And he says, Monica, do you remember when I came to you and asked you about your wish? And she's like, yeah, I remember. She said, what was it? I'm almost crying here, I promise you, because it was so touching. It was amazing. And she says, I wanted to meet my mother. I haven't seen my mother in 10 years. She lives in Peru or something. And he says, well, would you like to come up on stage? And she came up on stage, and sure enough, the curtain lifted and her mother was there. It was just absolutely, and the whole place is just, it's an emotion. You can just feel the emotion because it's real. He's actually made this happen. And he really means it. And there was one other example.
With no profit to him whatsoever.
None. Generosity personified.
That's phenomenal.
It went on, and there was things happening to people. And then he said, thank you so much, everybody. I just had the most wonderful time with you.
That's beautiful.
And he's leaving stage. And everyone's we're all up applauding, and it's just crazy. The emotion in the room was it was unique. And then he said, he came back, oh my goodness, there's one thing, yeah, that's right. I forgot one person. Yeah, is Christine Olsen here? And she's got cameras on her, lights on her in the middle of this 3,500 people. And he says, are you Christine Olsen? She's like, yeah. He's like, do you remember I asked you for your one wish in life? And she's like, yeah. He said, what was it? She said, I want to get married. I promise you, it was crazy. And he said to her, do you trust me? I remember these words. He said to her, do you trust me? And she's like, yeah. He goes, follow me. He took her off stage. His crew came in, they built a chapel. I promise you, they built a chapel on the stage. Of course, her fiancé was in on this. The bridesmaid was in on it. The family was in on this. And he took her backstage. He had her dress fitted. Everything was ready. And the one thing that I told him, I spoke to Petra about this, I said, the one thing that I remember, apart from the emotion in the room and the tears, people were crying, it was crazy. The one thing I always remember is when he walked back down the aisle with that lady, he was it wasn't like Petra the showman yet. He was so proud. He had her on his arm. And he was there. It was phenomenal. And I said to him, that was the one thing I always remember is your face, your focus on making that moment the most wonderful moment for that young lady. And he did it. It was incredible.
The composure was for her.
Man. The emotion, the people were just crying. Voluntary crying everywhere. Because it was so well done.
Yeah.
And it was so sincere. It was just, I will never, ever forget that moment, ever. And I will always hold him in such high regard for what he does. Because he's going through, this is not an easy time for our company at the moment. We are not having the best of times. We have 220 properties across Scandinavia. People are, of course, our property in particular, being such an internationally renowned property, there are no internationals.
Exactly.
We've had to change our whole setup, basically. not the quality of the product, but just the people we're dealing with,
right,
and who the people we're actually appealing to, which is another interesting subject because
now you had to pivot basically from
it's the marketing strategy. It's the strategy of the company.
So did you pivot? What could you pivot into during COVID?
Do you like football?
I followed, but I'm not a fan. I wouldn't call myself a fan.
I equate everything to football. Everything. I absolutely love football because for me it's one of the ultimate team sports. I'm a big team player. I believe in teams, and goalkeeper should go in goal and centre forward should be centre forwards. And very often the goalkeeper wants to be the centre forward, but he's rubbish at centre forward. You've got to say, no, listen, to win this game, I need you to stay in goal.
Right.
That's your position because you're a brilliant goalkeeper. With you in goal, we can win this.
Right.
So do as you're told and do what you're good at. Anyway, my team Chelsea, we got a ban from signing any players, so we had to deal with the squad that we had, plus the youngsters, and we, cut a long story short, we did very well that season because we had to rely on what we had. What we've had to do now is we've had to consolidate and also change our marketing strategy. We can know, our property was 70% international. That literally changed overnight. So we had to consolidate and take care of or look at the local market. First of all, we had the Scandinavian market. That reduced down to the Norwegian market, which is now almost reduced to the Oslo and the surrounding area market.
Wow.
But we're still busy. The hotel is still busy. You can come to us on a Saturday night. I mean, there'll be 100+ people in the hotel tonight. We will welcome to breakfast tomorrow morning. It's escapism. I can come to that as well. We got a lot to talk about, but it's escapism. We are the hotel where you to get away from everyday life. You come to the Thief. It's the place to go to. But what we did, we changed our marketing strategy and we had to appeal to the Nordics straight away. And we have very clever people. A guy called Jens Bredberg in particular, he's very clever. He put together packages to appeal to the Nordic market, because very often the Thief is one of those places you'd like to go to, but don't quite know if it's the place for, or if you could, when you get there, it's so international. Will they speak my, how can I? So instead of giving them a way in with many, many choices, they kind of made the choices before they arrived. So the package said, okay, this is what you get. You get a 5-course dinner, you get an overnight stay, you get a treatment in the spa, and they were like, great package, fantastic. It's kind of all done for us.
Exactly.
So our packages have been great. We got one called Room Arrest, where you don't leave your room. You're at the Thief, and it's a room arrest gig, and there's 2 of you in a room. You don't leave the room. You don't have to leave the room.
No.
Everything we will bring to your room. Every single thing. If it's not in the room when you arrive, we bring it to your room. So when you arrive, of course, you're well taken care of.
That's adaptation at the finest.
It is. All the trimmings are there. You walk into this. There's all these little bits and pieces that will make your stay. Even down to the bath salts. So when it's bath time, you can make a beautiful bath and sit there or have a drink with your loved one and just enjoy each other, enjoy the moment. And that's been an incredibly successful package for us. So we had to change our strategy, and also, businesses. And I speak to a very wise man. I should big up a lot of people in the show actually, because I'm surrounded by some very, very cool people who've made my life easier because they have a lot of knowledge, and I've listened, and I'm a great listener. I love to listen to people, especially people I have time for.
Right.
A guy called Paul Führer. He runs a consultancy agency, Dentsu, I think they're called. But Paul is the guru of what's going to happen in the future. If you don't know what's going to happen in a couple of years, you ask Paul. Cool guy, very cool guy. Anyway, he said, Dominic, in these times, you need to consolidate. What you do is, okay, you can still try and look for business outside of your property. You can still try and make sales outside of your property. But the people are coming to you. You consolidate with them and you take very, very good care of what you have. So don't focus too much on what's out there. You focus on what you have and make sure that those people have an experience that they will remember. So consolidation, you break it all down, you keep it really simple, you get back to your core business, you do what you're very good at. And we have consolidated really well. We really take care of people who come to us now. It's a beautiful strategy during these times. It has lasted way longer than anyone expected. It has really shifted a lot of industries and forced innovation.
and consolidation. I mean, when people think hotel, like you said, international business, tourism.
Gone. Not there anymore. So what do? You deal with what you have.
Yeah.
And also the staycation has become the buzzword. I mean, I know people who come, I say regularly, they come quite often. They leave the kids with the grandparents or with whoever they trust their children with, and they come and enjoy themselves. Yeah. And the reason that we have such a strong profile and such an international profile is that it is escapism. There are other properties which I won't name, all due respect to our colleagues and competitors in the industry. But if you're going to go anywhere to try and get away from everyday life, trust me, it's the thief. And they come in and you can see already they're like, this is something different. They know that we've been taking care of some of the most famous people in the world. The big stars always choose to say it, the thief, and they're in the environment.
Right. So who has passed through your doors that has made the largest impact?
Where do I start?
Okay, let me narrow it down. Who has made the largest impact on you that has passed through the doors? Because then we have a story of impact as well.
Has to be Obama.
Obama?
Has to be.
Okay, that was not the first name I was going to... I didn't even know this. Wow.
Has to be Obama.
When was this?
He did a tour of the Scandinavian cities. He did Copenhagen, Oslo, Helsinki, and Copenhagen. Copenhagen, Stockholm, Helsinki, and Oslo. Because, as you know, once you've left the presidency, it's a very lucrative book, tour, speech, presentations. They do it. That's what they do, and he does it very well. And he chose to stay with us.
Wow.
And I had the honor of taking care of him. I had a walk with him. I can tell you the story. Because he'd been flown around and in and out of car and in room and out of room, and he wanted to spend a little bit of time just relaxing, and he asked if it was possible to go outside, and his security came to me, and to cut a long story short, we managed to leave the property and head in a direction where the people weren't, because there was a lot of people outside the hotel waiting to see him. But we managed to get to the back of Sjuholmen and walk around to the peninsula, the tip, without being bothered. So he had his entourage, and there was also the Norwegian entourage, and there was his PA. And she asked me to explain to Mr. President, which they call him, because you always are, and about the area, about the history of the area and what was going on and how it came about and the thief and the name. And so I had a chat with him, and we ended up talking about golf and stuff, and we were walking around. It was a beautiful evening, and the sun was setting. He was with his baseball cap on and his coffee and just chilling. And we'd made the walk round, and he goes, "This is beautiful, this place. This is so nice." And it was really quiet, that beautiful Norwegian evening, kind of sunset and stuff. And he goes, can we continue? And I'm like, well, we can't really, because if we go that way, there's 100 and some people there with press, and they're going to swamp you. And I said, well, what we can do the walk again. So he said, all right, let's do it again. So we did the walk all over again. We did the whole thing. And 3 people saw us. The first people to see us were people on the roof or in an apartment with a balcony. Right. And they started filming us, and they sent it straight to NRK, but by the time they got it, we got back inside. Right. And the other 2, which was very funny, were 2 joggers.
Joggers?
They were joggers. And they were jogging towards us, and you could see they were and then suddenly you could see like ding, 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 ding. They saw these, large security, and they knew he was in, that's all Obama. Yeah. But as a jogger, you are jogging, so you want to keep jogging, and they couldn't stop.
No.
So they had to keep jogging. And 2 of them, the same scenario happened. The funniest one was, I think I told this story before, is the guy working in the office. There's an office with a massive window. We walked past his window twice, and there was this guy in there on his computer. If he'd have just looked up,
no,
I promise you, he would have seen us.
Oh, that's sad.
It was very funny. I was tempted to go knock on the window.
Yo, life is flashing by, man.
Give him a wave, It was so funny. But that was one of my proudest moments. I have a photo in my phone. I never shown the photo actually.
Really?
I never. Possibly, if I ever leave the thief, I will post that and say thank you to everybody who's been involved, to Petter, to everybody who's been in Siri, to everybody who's been involved in the thief, who's taken me to that place.
Yeah.
Because that, for me, is the pinnacle of working in my industry, is having him choose us as a property and choosing myself, amongst others, to take care of him. It couldn't.
Yeah.
I have goosebumps.
Right. I mean, what would be better than that? Like, that is
Well,
the
it's
measure,
not a question
isn't
of better. It's just I have the utmost respect for the man, and not only for what he did, he's done and is doing, but when you meet him, it's something very, very special. And very often when you know, I've worked with everybody. I really have met a lot of people. So, you know, the real big fish. And when you meet them, people say, "Oh, what's so special about him?" You say, "Trust me, when you meet him, you realise why he is where he is, or he's doing what he's doing, or he sings like he sings, or
Right.
you realise that this person is very unique."
So how was we all know his demeanor, obviously, you know, from TV or what, but in person, if you could put that into words.
Charming, polite, interested. He was very interested in what we were doing, the area, you know. So say I'm a black man with dreadlocks, and he could see this, and he was very keen to work out how this had actually happened, what was going on, and possibly regarding what we were doing, what Norway was doing, as something he could very happily relate to, in a sense.
Absolutely. There are a lot of ways, I'm thinking now from his perspective, a lot of ways he could see this interest in, I mean, he comes from a biracial family as well.
Yes.
He has roots in Kenya.
Yes.
So there are a lot of parallels here. A lot of parallels.
Yeah. I think he saw a synergy and an energy that he really enjoyed. He realised we created something quite unique at The Thief, and he was staying in it, he was enjoying it, and also we could explain to him a little bit about what made The Thief so special, because it's our location as well, and the environment we're working in, the people we're working with, the philosophy of the country, you know, everything. There's always an ingredient that makes things click, and you're not quite sure. It's like the perfect storm almost sometimes. You're right. The Thief happened at exactly the right time. There was no other property like it. Mm-hmm. Nobody had dared do anything like it. Nobody was brave enough to go out with such an audacious statement of, no, this is going to be something quite unique. And it's going to be embraced. You watch.
Right.
Because everyone's like, no, too expensive. Look where you are. You're located out there. No, it's all, no, people don't. Trust me, they did. And they loved us. We got some pretty hard press in the beginning. People were a little bit harsh on us.
Really?
Yeah.
What were they picking apart? Or was it one of those hard presses that is just to pick something apart, to find an excuse?
It was a little bit just to find something. And it's good press. I mean, you know, but the thing is, the international market and especially the business segment, they embraced us immediately.
Yeah, because let's be honest, at the end of the day, when you look at any new endeavor company in any industry, their purpose, if they're doing things right, is always to push the envelope. Why would you shut this down? Why would you not encourage this? Because it will benefit everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, I just don't think they realized that we could deliver what we promised. They thought, yeah, it's one of those kind of, I think they're hot, I think they're this, I think they're that. But what we did is we made it possible to deliver by adapting to a different approach to service. We knew we were highly professional, highly motivated, highly skilled, but we also had to look at our target group and look at them and see what were they looking for? What does a businessman look for when he comes to Oslo? Is he looking for protocol? Is he looking for stiff upper lip? Is he looking for bellboy and bells ringing and people being distant and people sort of having this kind of standoffish? Right. And I very, very quickly saw that, not that we approached it in that way, we approached it in a completely different way. And I describe it as the informality of service.
I like that.
It's beautiful. It's an absolute joy to work with, because the informality of service means that once he's been through the protocol of walking into the meeting, meeting, the Japanese person, the person from Dubai, the person from Ireland, the lady from Scotland, whatever it may be. There's a whole minefield of social interaction to get through just saying hello before you've even started doing business.
Exactly.
The last thing that gentleman wants is to walk into a hotel and be faced with protocol. He wants to be faced with warmth, with a simplistic greeting, with generosity, with real people. And
how did you distill this formula? Because it seems simple when you talk about it, right? But obviously not everyone is doing it.
It is an art, I must admit.
Right.
And there are people who, and I watched people do it. This is the thing for me. I suppose in France, especially in Paris, I would always describe the maître d'hôtel, the gentleman when you walk into a restaurant, you can instinctively, within a few seconds, you know who the boss is. You know who's in charge, because he's visible, and his job is to be visible, but his job is to control the situation, to control the restaurant. And as soon as he sees you walking, bonsoir, monsieur, dame, bonsoir, vous allez bien, and he shouts across the restaurant, and everybody knows you're here. They all look, monsieur, dame's arrived. Doesn't matter who you are, they don't know you, doesn't matter. Yeah. But you suddenly become a part of what's going on. Instead of standing there and with your girlfriend and she spent 3 hours getting ready with a new dress and a new hair and you got all dressed up and you made the booking, you stand at the door and nobody
Right.
I could talk to you about doors and greetings for another day. I'm absolutely fixated with it to the level of when I walk into a restaurant with my girlfriend or anybody, in fact, I can never sit with my back to the door.
Really?
Never.
Never actually...
Never.
Okay, that's interesting. Is it because of the presentation of the people coming in
it's
you want to
because
catch? Or?
I will always judge. I will always observe the way people function from the front door, because that's where it starts. Okay, I can book a table on the phone and Mr. Jones, you're coming with your wife, and it all sounds great. And Mrs. Jones just went out, bought a new dress. It's our anniversary. She's got her hair done, got her nails done. I'm dressed. We're looking forward to a really enjoyable evening. If I get to that door and within the first 30 seconds somebody hasn't recognized me and realized this is a very special moment for us, which every restaurant meeting, every person walking through a restaurant is a special moment, then you're in the wrong industry. And I saw this from the maître d'hôtel, and the maître d'hôtel can put people at ease. He can maneuver them around the restaurant. Their table's not ready. I've seen how many times I've been to a French restaurant where there's somebody sitting there having dinner. That's your table. And they're still having dessert, and a cafe and something, and the table's not ready. Right. But he knows that. Deux coups pour Monsieur Gorham, allez-y, Monsieur Dame, venez. And you've got 2 champagne in your hand before you know it, and you're chatting with your girl, and you're happy. He's just bought himself half an hour.
Right. Yeah, this can be taught, no?
It's an art. And I've watched some great maîtres d'hôtels, and I absolutely love it. And I think you should always walk into a restaurant and that maître d'hôtel should be there. That one person, that's the boss. It's him.
So you obviously you guys have staff, and you obviously educate this staff.
I train them. I have a school.
Right. You have
it's called Thief School.
Whoa.
Yeah, I have a school inside the hotel. And I train every member of staff, basically.
So what's the approach in training without giving away trade secrets?
No, if I'm a great writer and I have a pen, I'm very happy to give you my pen.
Love it.
Doesn't make you a good writer. It just means you got my pen.
Yeah.
I always make an equation with football boots. A great footballer, give me your boots. It doesn't make you great, just means you got my boots.
I love that analogy.
And it's really cool.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy. I invited all the great properties in Oslo to come and visit. I took them, and people were like, you crazy? I'm like, no. Let them see. Let them come and see what we're doing. It's not the most. Yeah, the most, because I do a lot of show and tells of the property, and I have a lot of respect for the Rivelsrud family, who welcomed me to the Grand Hotel many years ago, and I still see the children now and again. Lovely people, and the Rivelsrud, they wanted to see what the thief was about, and they came with their director, which was Mr. Hustlerud, if I remember correctly, and they came. It was one of the most nerve-wracking show and tells I've ever done, because they are the industry. They were the Grand Hotel. And I remember bringing them to the pub, lovely people, the father and mother, and I think the father, it was only the father who came with his the hotel manager, and I remember showing them around the property, and I was waxing lyrical about the thief and the story, and they were, to be honest with you, they didn't pay much attention to what I was saying, because they were looking at the detail of the room.
Yeah.
Their interest was how this room was put together. They were looking at hinges, they were looking at lists, they were looking at light sockets, they were looking at everything, because the spec of the thief is such a high standard. It was done so well and to such expense that no one had done it before. And they were very impressed with that. You could see that.
Wow.
Oh my goodness, you don't see a cable, you don't see a socket, you don't see, it's all integrated into the room. They were that I remember they were very impressed about that. I should big up the Rivelsrud family as well, because they are very, very, very nice people. And they, once again, even though I should tell this story as well, because of course they were the institution. They were, if you look, you sort of compare like the Ritz or the Dorchester or, the great properties, the Rivelsrud, they had the Grand. They were the owners of the finest property in the city. And Siri, she knew about, and she was the manager of the hotel, the Grand Hotel. And she knew they needed revamping. She knew they needed, it was a little bit old school, and they needed a little bit of a lift. And as I say, all due respect to them, because they're a great property. And she went to them and said, "Listen, I have an idea. I know this guy called Dominic who could make a difference." And this is almost 16 years ago. Because I've been at the Thief for 10, so this must have been 6 years before the Thief opened. And they said, "Oh, well, yeah, what about me?" And she said, "Listen, this guy, he does stuff. He's a busy bee. He knows a lot of people. He's working with all the big companies. He puts all the events, all the big parties, all the events together. It's always him who's in charge. So he would bring that into the property." So to cut a long story short, I actually had an office inside the Grand as a consultant for years. I never actually worked specifically for the Grand Hotel, but my office was in the Grand Hotel. Yeah. This was the Rivelsrud again who welcomed me in. Yeah. But the story goes, in fact, that she recommended that they meet me, but I think she failed to describe me.
Oh boy!
So
how did that play out?
It was interesting, because I'm used to that in a sense. It didn't faze me. But you could see that when I did arrive, they were a little bit taken aback. But I said to them, "Listen, I see what's going on here, and I've done a little bit of research concerning your property. And people love your property, but they only come here when it's Aunt Josephine's birthday or when somebody comes in from... They don't use this place as a hotel possibly could be used. They use it for special occasions. And I can possibly make that change." And I said, "I don't want anything from you. I'll just give me 3 months and I'll show you what I can do." And they said, "Okay." And now the rest is history. We went wild ways with the Grand Hotel. It was fantastic.
That's brilliant, man.
It was really cool.
That's absolutely brilliant.
And once again, you have to show you homage to these people who they could quite easily say, "No, that's not for us." But they were like, they saw something that, no, this actually could be for us. And they weren't as institutionalized as you think. They had a thought behind it, thinking, "No, if she says this guy can do it, we trust her, and we met him, and we now possibly he can do what he says he's going to do." So
no, you have a point, and it's respectable that you are paying homage to these people, because, as you said, it could have very easily been a no.
Easy.
Due to some insecurities or like something.
Exactly. And they were the opposite. They were like, "No, we think he can do this." So I love paying homage to people, because there are people out there who I believe should be bigged up for what they do and what they represent. And I wouldn't be where I am today without them.
That's very humble, man.
No, it's 100% true.
And
I
humble.
should actually, the last one, I don't know how long this conversation is going to go on for, but before I forget it and get home without paying homage to my darling girlfriend.
Right. Of course, you have to.
Yeah. We went, me, Siri, and the management team went, we went on a trip to one of our it's a long story, the accountant's house. She had a beautiful house in the countryside. And we went on a sort of team building thing. When we first started, and we all had to sort of say something around the room. And I was sitting next to Siri. I remember to this day, she was sitting next to me. And we all had to say something about something. And I just stood up. I said, I'd like to thank my wife. And you could see the reaction in the room because it was so real in a sense, because without her, I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't be able to do what I do today. And I call her my wife, we're not married, but same.
Right.
She doesn't think so, but same. Yeah, without her, I wouldn't be able to do this.
No.
She's given me a complete freedom, but she knows that I love her dearly. She knows that if I'm not at work, I'll either be playing football, fishing, or home, kind of, yeah. But
That's
it's just one of those things that
yeah.
you need these people behind you, and that whole cliche thing about behind every good man is a good woman. It in a way, I believe it, but I don't say it so much. But I should big her up, because to do what I do, you are. I've been working at the hotel 24/7, 365, literally, for the last 10 years. But with complete joy.
I mean, that is there's this term in Japanese, Ikigai. I don't know if you've heard of it.
No.
It's when your vocation, your passion, what the world needs and what you're good at meet.
Are intertwined, yes.
That center is the Ikigai. And
I will remember that. I'm very Ikigai.
That's it, you found it.
Yeah, well, the thing is, when I promise to do something, I do it. And I promised Peter, I said, I will front this. I will do this for you, I promised Siri, I said, I will do this for you. And I sacrificed everything for it, including my girlfriend and my children. I've missed countless occasions but I never beat myself up about it. If you do, then you're fighting a losing battle. You will never actually succeed. I can't beat myself up about it. I have to look at it, and they understand. They know where I am. I'm never out doing the oiki poiki or the oiki koki, or I'm working.
Yeah, that's tremendously different.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Tremendously.
Yeah. So that has kept me completely focused on what I have to do.
I would like to bring out a couple of points. First of all, you speak French, you speak English, and
Correct.
you do speak, and at least I know you understand Norwegian perfectly. Yeah. How important is language in Scandinavia when it comes to tugging on experience, tugging on emotion, tugging on service?
Well, luckily enough, the affinity between the Norwegians and the English is strong. I think if there's any country in Europe that has a close affinity to England, it's Norway. That I didn't know about, but that has worked very much in our favour. I understand that to understand the people of the country, it is beneficial to understand the language and speak the language, because that gives you an insight into. But saying that, we have actually worked almost exclusively at the Thief in English. It just so happened we became a very international property. We were embraced by the international market, hence the language would be the international language. We're called The Thief, which is an English name derived from Tjuvholmen, which I presume you...
Right.
Yeah, you knew that bit.
Right.
Yeah? It couldn't be... I can't wax lyrically enough about how important it is for us to be able to use possibly another language. And it also is... it's a different experience for people. I'm, as I said, this whole physiognomy thing and the whole interaction with people and the instantaneous effect you can have on people with language. And it's instantaneous. To say good morning to somebody is completely different to say, hei, velkommen. Hei, så hyggelig. I can't do it.
The mood shifted.
I can. I can. But what I'd really love to do is give them something authentic as possible. And that would be a greeting either probably in French or in English or in French. I should start.
How would the French be? Give them a taste.
Bonjour.
Perfect. That's the beauty of French, man. You could cuss someone out and they'll say thank you.
Yeah. Bonjour. Ça va?
Perfect. Yeah.
Right. And I do very often if it's time. Anyway, I'll come to that. But the escapism, the steal you away from everyday life, the things that represent the thief work really well. And I do it on a daily basis. I will be tomorrow morning at breakfast and I greet every single guest and I greet them in English. I take them to the table. It might be a Norwegian waiter or a Swedish waiter who will then continue the conversation in Norwegian or Swedish or whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. But the greeting will always be in English. Mm-hmm. And you can see the effect it has on people. And as I say, there's nothing cynical about it. There's nothing manipulative about it. It's just giving people a different experience. If you, I call ladies madame all the time.
How is your reaction in 2021 to be called madame?
Brilliant.
I bet, man.
Absolutely brilliant. I take people to table. I will pull the chair out and say, madame. And the guy will look at me. First, he's heading for the chair, which he shouldn't do. She's like, madame, that's right, that's me. He's talking about me. Yeah. And for once, somebody is actually recognizing that I'm in the room. It's about me, this. You might, because you always come first. Your job comes first. Your football comes first. Your TV comes. You always come first. Now somebody's putting me first, and I'm going to enjoy every moment of it. And it's a really interesting thing to be able to work with, because with a word, you can change an environment. You can change his perception of what's happening. Suddenly, he's like, oh, of course, madame. Yes, that's my lovely wife, and he's recognized it. He's not making me feel stupid, but now it's my moment to shine. Now it's my moment. Of course, this is my dame. This is my lady, and I promise you, you change with a word. Yeah. You can change the atmosphere in a breakfast of a table with a word, and it's beautiful to see. And if you can do it, why not?
You do it with such grace and elegance, man.
It's a joy. I promise you. You don't know how much pleasure you get out of just making something different for people. They came from their room expecting, there's breakfast, but suddenly things change. And if you can do that, if you can make that moment a little bit special for people, if you can turn the tide, or just déclenche, we say in French.
Right, déclenche.
You déclenche, you release something.
Yeah.
And I absolutely adore it. It's part of my business. It's what we do. It's what we strive to achieve. Is to steal you away from everyday life. You have an everyday life. Your children are home. They're waiting. The bills are waiting to be paid. Your mortgage is there. Everything is there. But when you're with me, I would hopefully for these couple of hours, this is going to be something a little bit different. And that's what you come for.
I will have to say this because I feel it to be a waste if I don't say this. But I think 8 years ago, I spent it was an entrepreneur thing at the Thief for a weekend. Mm-hmm. And everything you've said, spot on. Because that was the experience I got. You were at the door, the way you greeted, and it was like, and I didn't I would never forget that sequence because it was genuine. But let me use another word that is more subjective and unique to that specific time. It was an unexpected pocket of familiarity in Oslo. Suddenly for me, to be greeted like that there by a gentleman with your stature and it was a familiar pocket. And that was refreshing. Yeah. That was very refreshing.
The essence of this really is to be able to approach as many people as possible with the informality of service, with professionalism, with motivation, with whatever it may be, but to put them in the zone. And you see people when they actually work this, and they do it well. They know, you know where the line is. You know how close, how familiar you can get, how you need to come back to step, maybe move forward a little bit. But I've been doing this for so long now. It's
how many decades has it been?
4. Since I was 16, I'm 57 now.
You're 57?
I'm 57, yeah.
You look good, man.
I feel good.
I mean, that's it. Your mantra has always been, to, as you said, keeping that natural high,
Totally,
body clean.
Totally.
That plays
Totally.
beyond a massive role.
I've got a job to do. Yeah, I need to wake up every morning with that dynamic of thinking, I'm going to work and I'm going to whoop ass. I've got a job to do. I've got 100, 200 people in the hotel who expect a wonderful day. And I have to be on form to deliver. It's like when you see the good footballers or the good athletes, or you can't wake up and think, I don't want to. You got to say, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to whoop ass, because then you will win the Olympic gold. Then you will win the Champions League. Then you will win the FA Cup.
Right.
You don't do that by not thinking about, today's not, I can't do it today. They're the ones that make it. The ones that break through that and say, no, I've got a job to do. And I do it every day. The day I wake up not believing I want to do it, I won't do it. I can't do it. I can't think of a day, honestly, truly, sincerely, where I haven't woken up thinking, I've got a job to do. And I love it.
Right. That's beyond discipline. That's Ikigai. That's literally...
It is Ikigai.
Yeah.
I'm glad you found it, because now I have something to describe by, even though I'd have to look up the Japanese translation. It literally...
Right. We could even pull it up later, or even now. It's a beautiful term. It's a term that I believe one is lucky, or even maybe chosen, to use your words, to possess.
Oh, I was... I believe. I truly believe I was born to serve. I will quite happily... Ikigai is a Japanese word or concept that means a reason for being. Now, if you click on image, is
Alex?
Union point of 4 fundamental components of life:
click
passion, vocation, profession, and mission. Wow.
Right. Now, if you click on image, check this out. Click on that one, right? Any of them, actually. So, what you love, what the world needs, what you can get paid for, what you're good at, right?
Yeah.
When these intersect, what you love and what the world needs is your mission. What the world needs and what you're paid for is vocation. What you're good at and what you can be paid for is profession. And then what you are good at and what you love is your passion. And then in the center of that, that's what you do every day to impact all these people.
I now have a name for my new restaurant.
Whoa, slow. Okay,
no, I'm joking. I'm joking.
But is there a plan in the future?
There is a plan in the future.
So what's coming?
There is a plan in the future. Well, at present, Petter is constructing the most fabulous hotel in Suriplas.
Again, like...
A new one. It's called Summero. Summero. And it's in Summerogata, which is bang in the middle of Suriplas.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful old 1930s deco building, and they're building the most stupendous hotel, restaurant, rooftop bar, rooftop pool, rooftops. I mean, just rooftop, beautiful, beautiful place. With some outstanding designers who've been brought in from overseas, and Syrians, of course, and Jarle Moorn, who's my ex-director at The Thief, is now the director of Summero.
Beautiful.
Hopefully we're joining forces quite shortly. Siri, who's in charge of the project, and an incredible team. They're building slowly but surely to absolutely rock Oslo next year, summer.
Already?
Already, yeah. It's an incredible project. And in theory, that will be my new project.
Dominic, this has been beyond what I was expecting. I hope that the value that people will get from this will inspire them to really put service at the forefront of whatever they do, wherever they are.
Yeah.
Because in itself, it's a blessing not only to give but to receive.
For sure.
we can only aspire to try and find our ikigais.
Oh, I'm so glad. I've
Yeah.
learned something very important today. I'm glad I came away with this because I can. Now I can describe something that I've had a lot of descriptions for, but not in one word, and not knowing that one particular culture had actually
Capture the essence.
captured it with all the essences of what I do. And it's not surprising that the Japanese came up with it, because they have that kind of work ethic in a sense. But no, I've enjoyed every moment. But we haven't even talked football. We haven't talked fishing. We haven't talked drumming.
That's because we want you back. You see, that's how we work here.
We've got to do another one, man.
And we absolutely will.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming.
It was. We talked about this for a while. So
yeah, a year actually.
You know what? I'm a great believer in destiny. It was meant to be now. It was meant to be today. It was meant to be in this room. It was meant to be us. And thank you.
Exactly. Thank you, everybody.